Yeah, I guess that I'm done making political videos for a while because what's the point? I mean, it's unbelievable when people lay out a plan for something, a conspiracy, and they have they're brazen enough to lay it out in front of you. You know they're trying to jump ahead of it, get ahead of it. So you say, well, how could you call it a conspiracy? We were talking about. So, anyways, that's exactly what's happening. It's just what I said yesterday when I made my video about midday election results. Everything that's happening is happening. I mean, I don't understand this mail-in thing at all. I mean, I don't see the issue with going to the polls, especially like the poll by me wasn't busy at all. I live in a very densely populated area. So people were spread out, and I know a lot of people aren't probably mailed in ballots, but I mean, it wasn't. There was just nobody close to me. But I understand some people still aren't going to go because they're just corona paranoid. But this whole mail-in thing, we've known about a pandemic for 9 months. We've known that the election was coming for the same amount of time. Why would any state decide that they're going to accept any ballots after November 3rd? I just can't get my head around it. Even if you made an official date, such as the last presidential debate, everybody fucking knew who they were going to vote for by midsummer if they weren't already decided before that. And the people who were swayable one way or the other, or the people who really were genuinely undecided, the last debate was on the fucking 21st, 22nd of October. So you're talking about, I think it's 10 days, it's actually 11 calendar days, because with 31 days, 11 fucking days. You know, I use the mail a lot for other stuff, man. The post office is, everybody always complains the post office is a little slow. It's a little slow. But if you're mailing the fucking ballot in, you know, the argument that you might not be able to get it in because I've heard that, the USPS is really having problems. They're really overlooked. Man, my mail ain't that far back. 11 days is plenty of time. And mail-in ballots are scandalous anyways. It should have been used. I mean, most places were using drop boxes anyway. I just, the whole fucking thing is crazy to me, man. And when I see these people on election day saying, yeah, we're gonna make sure we count every vote, and it's the way they say it. Like, I would think that you're running a state, you take all these mail-in ballots on the, up to the election day. You take all the mail-in ballots and absentee ballots and you get them to a location to count them. But that's not how they do it. They do it fucking county by county. So every county has different policies. I mean, I'm not big on uniformity. I'm more for individuality and all kinds of things. But when it comes to the integrity of the election and the ability to count votes, I mean, it's like yesterday when I was talking to those poll observers, election overseer, poll observers, whatever the fuck their title is. And I asked them if they were partisan. I said, so are you guys partisan or not? I mean, what exactly is your position? And they said, well, we can't tell you. I said, what the fuck does that mean, you can't tell me? I'm going to show you that. No, I already voted. I had a question.
Yeah.
So there's a rule about not wearing anything partisan inside a voting place, right?
Yep.
So is there like a distance from the voting place that you're like?
There is.
I mean, like if you walked up to the door with a hat on for a candidate or a face mask, you took it off, is that okay? You're not even supposed to be in it.
There is a distance. To be honest, I don't know it off the top of my head, but
it's probably like 100 feet or 200 feet. It's not going to be a half mile, obviously.
Right.
So,
but if you want, I can ask the chief inspector real quick and give you an actual.
I wanted to ask you, what's your position too? Are you Trump-holster, or are you partisan or not? Is I guess what I'm asking.
So today we are all nonpartisan as workers, election workers.
Where were you yesterday or tomorrow?
I can't answer during my shift.
I don't mean your personal preference. I'm just saying when they have you guys are the people who are supposed to be preventing fraud, right? You're the people preventing fraud, and you're also the people that are making sure that walking in with political stuff on. So kind of matters, I guess.
Yeah,
if you
so
have
they
an
make sure
affiliation,
there's always like diversity of representation, and then there's
like
also
a person on each side or something.
and then they also do something called election observers who have to like re-register, but who basically observe to make sure there's nothing going wrong at elections, if that makes sense. So like even holding us accountable.
Right. Are they like people from one person from each party also, or are they non-affiliated?
So they are, I believe, from parties. I'll be honest, this is my first time working,
Let's
so
ask him, because I really want to. I'd like to know what the distance is too.
yeah, I
That's
don't, and I can ask the chief inspector. Do you know what the distance is from the polling site, where you can have like partisan hats on and?
You have to be over 100 feet.
Yeah.
Just 100 feet from the door, right?
100 feet from the door of the polling site. And I'm not sure about sight lines. Sight lines themselves are kind of a question. So if it's a car, like maybe big banners and stuff, I think it has to be 100 feet off sight line. But that's this again.
Hello.
Right?
Scared to vote?
Yeah, I mean the
Okay.
street here is pretty.
Registered already?
Yes.
The street here is pretty far away, anyways. I was just wondering.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously, I've been looking online.
If you want to ask anything more specific, Lafayette.
No, I just wondered that, and I wondered if the people who were doing the observing were partisan or non-partisan, because that just kind of seems to be.
Some of them partisan.
I started watching some videos on Twitter, man, and I've been seeing some really not okay stuff going on around it. Certain, I didn't have any issue here, but I've been seeing some. So, just wondering. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thanks for your question.
So I didn't have that wasn't a real good camera angle, but you should have been able to hear them. Like, and you know, they weren't like not answering my questions, but they also weren't giving me the kind of answers that made me have any confidence in the process. I don't know. They still didn't really clearly answer. Is there a person from each party observing, or at some polling places is it one party and some another? Is anybody, can they be nonpartisan? Is that even possible? I mean, I don't know. How do you not get your fucking ballot in on time? What are those couple extra days going to do for you if you can't figure out how to vote by then? And I see all these leads that Trump has. He's even leading in the popular vote, which I was very happy to see, because I don't want to hear 4 years of complaining about the Electoral College again. And now I wake up and he's behind in the popular vote, not by much, but by a little bit. And all these different states that are still on the board, that are already at 95%, yet they're still somehow on the board, they're now counting all the mail-in and absentee ballots now. They said they were doing it before. I would have thought they would have done it either as they came in, which then somebody told me they don't do it that way because then they don't want the fucking results leaked to the public, because they don't want to influence voting. Where one person sees their candidates down really bad and they don't bother to go, or whatever the case. So, okay, I get it. So you don't start counting them until the day of the election. You don't start counting them until the 3rd. Okay, well, then you got to start counting them right away. I mean, it's not like the person who's sitting there at the table, right? You walk in, there's a table for your ward, and they want your ID. At least they're supposed to. And then they verify your address, and then you go vote. It's not like those people are the ones who are counting your vote. Other people are doing it. So why don't they just start at 6 in the morning on that day? How long is it going to take? And so some counties will have 100 of those or something. They take a tiny amount of time. But yeah, sure, there's some counties that have 10,000 or 100,000. Even 500,000 mail-in ones. Who cares? How long can it take? How can it not be done by the time the polls are closed? How can it not be done? How can I watched that footage until 4 o'clock in the morning, probably, somewhere around there. How the fuck can they still be counting and this shit ain't done? How does that happen? Especially when every one of these states takes the count from the county representative for the election commission who does it. So they're all counted by county. To me, it makes a lot more sense to take them all to one location, have a large group of observers that are able to walk around and fucking check people, and if there's any questions, there can be this ballot goes into the question pile. But they don't do it that way. They do it by county. Why do they do that? They do it that way, I'm guessing, because of potential recounts. or other issues where they want to isolate issues by county relating to fraud or any other fucking thing. Lack of clarity on the ballot, confusion, etc. So when you're only responsible for your county, even when you're a big county, how long can it take? And why would you wait until the end of the fucking day to do that? What's more curious to me is how so many of these states had this fast vote count, which I pointed out yesterday. I pointed out Wisconsin's vote count, right? By noon, 1 o'clock, we already had a very large percentage of the vote counted, which to me indicates that the mail-in was fucking addressed. Look at a state like Florida, far bigger than Wisconsin, bigger than Pennsylvania, bigger than Nevada or Arizona, bigger than Michigan, etc. So how come at noon yesterday they were at 2/3 of their potential eligible voters, having 15 million people that are eligible to vote? They had 10 million votes registered by like noon, 1 o'clock. And they had a result, into the evening before midnight. How come that state can get all their shit counted? Wisconsin can't. Michigan can't. North Carolina, Pennsylvania can't. And in those few hours that I slept before I got up and looked at it again, how can all the votes that they didn't count look increasingly like they were all the mail-in ones? Those should have been the ones that were being counted by an independent group right when that day started. How do they count a portion of them? Like they start counting all these votes that are mail-in or absentee, and then all of a sudden they stop counting them while the election's going on. I don't understand that. And then after all of the majority of the ones that were turned in at the polls are counted, there's still, the vast majority of our mail-in isn't counted. How the fuck does that happen? It doesn't even make any sense. I guess I have to assume that all of the mail-in and absentee ballots are counted by hand and not by a machine. Because all the ones that people did in person are counted by a machine. You put your ballot into it. Now, whether those machines update a central database immediately or whether they store all of it and update it. I mean, updating it immediately makes a lot more sense. But then again, maybe they do it once an hour. So that way, if there's an issue, they can track, was there, I don't know all the inner workings, but I just can't figure out how essentially half the pile of mail-in ballots were counted in the beginning, and states were turning in record high turnout and giving you results for a very large portion of the eligible and we're still talking about the eligible population of the state to vote. If a state has 10 million eligible people, oftentimes only 5 million even turn out to vote. And yesterday we were getting numbers from all these states that more than half of the eligible population, if not 3/4 of it, were already voting and had their votes registered by early in the day. So nothing makes sense. And thinking about how it was laid out by by everybody from Pelosi to this guy that I saw, the senator that was on the news, and additionally, there was really nothing that happened last night. There was no riots, no protests, and I've seen all the flyers from Antifa, from the BLM. I've seen the stuff that they said they were going to do. And maybe they will in a couple of days. That's not what I saw. I saw these things that said this shit starts at this time, and we're going to really turn up the volume on everything we're doing. And yet really nothing happened. I mean, nothing significant. So why is that? Election integrity was a problem in this country in the early days because fraud was simple. There were no ways to track anything except for a person working at a poll, their memory and their integrity. So if a person working at a poll early on decided they liked one candidate and they saw people voting multiple times, just let them go. I mean, so many of our elections in the first 2 centuries of this country were just done based on the honor system. People went and voted once because, that's what you do. You don't go and vote fucking 10 times or try to change your appearance or try to go to 2 different places. And yeah, I'm sure there's been a ton of fraud, at least in local elections, I bet, throughout the years. You know, I'm thinking of that scene from Gangs in New York where the guy says, how many times you vote today? Twice. You only voted twice? Get back there. Get a shave. Go back in there. I mean, I just don't think it's changed all that much in this country, except for the methods of which that shit happens. I've often said it doesn't matter that much about who's in power. The president has a limited scope of power, which is how the checks and balances system is set up, as well as they all do what the fuck they want and operate in self-interest, so it doesn't really matter which one's in charge. You're still going to get fucked personally, and you got to make your own way and have your own things in life because the government ain't ever going to help you. So the main difference is that when one group's in power, it costs you a lot more money to have that mindset than when the other group is in power. But this election is different, man. This is the other side here, the left in this case, is talking about changing all that. You know, normally it doesn't matter so much who's in the presidency because of the checks and balances, but they're talking about eradicating portions of that checks and balances system. Deciding they want to add on states so that they can influence the Senate, so that they can have absolute control. Deciding that they're going to do, I'm not going to go through it all. You know all the stuff that they're doing. We're supposed to just sit back over the next couple of days and watch exactly what we were warned about happen. Have absolutely no power to do anything about it. God damn it, it's hot. The warmest November day I remember in my entire life. This is a total anomaly and not normal. You know, I don't know who influenced who the responsible party on the left is for influencing this social movement / political movement. And I don't know who it is on the left that helped fund all this political stuff. I know about regular citizen contributions, but the money's deeper than that. So, I don't know. I can go with any of the other usual conspiracies about who it is, but that doesn't matter to the point that it's just you can be, if you are rich and powerful, you can do whatever you want. Why the fuck should I care about any of it? Why the fuck should there's no integrity in our elections, and our laws only matter if you get caught. Our laws only matter if you get caught in an area where they'll actually prosecute you, whether it's regular street crime or whether it's corporate embezzlement or whether it's fucking treason. It only matters if you get caught in an area where they care about that. Rules for thee and not for me, or rules for me and not for thee, or whatever the fuck it is. I don't care about any of this shit. Why should I follow any laws? Why should I personally recognize the authority of anybody? Why should I recognize the authority of the police? Why should I recognize the authority of, more directly, why should I recognize the authority of any mayor? Why should I recognize the authority of the laws of any county or any state? Why should I recognize the authority of any governor? Why should I recognize the authority of any court? Why? The rules only matter if you break them and if you're caught and the manner in which you're caught. So, and then to the equation of how much money and influence do you have. That's all that matters. Even if you're famous, even if you're rich and famous and get caught on video doing something, even if the public actually gets access to it, it just really doesn't matter. If you're rich and if you have enough influence, where you live, where you travel, who governs those areas, that's all that really matters. So why should I, as a citizen, recognize the authority of any of that? That's the lesson that we got from this election. Well, that we're getting as we're watching this unfold in front of our eyes, and as we are going to watch Trump lose this election, as these ballots that were turned in first that looked like they had been counted immediately when election day started are now apparently being counted at the end, and that count will continue for an undetermined amount of time until the result that they want is achieved.